Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, I have Jay Andrews and Billy Hodges, and they're here today to talk about the American Association of Independent Lighting Agents. Yeah, kind of sounds like Nailed, probably doing the same kind of thing, getting together and figuring everything out, but we're going to talk about it on all that on the show. Jay Andrews began his career in lighting in 1997 with Lithonia Lighting as a marketing trainee, and he had additional roles in distributor marketing as well as market development for the emergency lighting product group. He worked at Contech as well as a sales manager in the Southeast, then Cree Lighting in 2011. In May 2013, he co-founded Next Generation Lighting in Atlanta. Next Generation Lighting is a commercial and industrial lighting agency. Billy Hodges, interested in the magic of lighting, aren't we all? But since high school, theater, and we've been talking a lot about the show, about the kind of merging of theatrical elements into general use lighting. So I'm sure he has some thoughts on that. Went to Penn State. Became passionate about lighting design and embarked upon a career in architectural lighting. His bio is really long, so I'm going to try to sum it up here quick. He struggled with the forces of commerce overwhelming his designs, so he went to the dark side to learn about the business of lighting firsthand. Spec rep, covered different parts of North America, learning lighting commerce. Anyway, going on here a little bit further at the end, though, now 10 years later, he has a company called Digital Filaments and is thriving, and he's joined with Jay Andrews from Next Generation, the guy we're talking to as well, to form the ALA, which is the American Association of Independent Lighting Agents. Go to lightingagents.org. But before we start the conversation, Greg, we got to keep it magical. We got to go to evluma.com. That's EVLUMA.com for the magicians of lighting, Greg.
That's right. They make one thing is utility-grade outdoor LED lighting solutions, including their OmniMax, which we've talked about before, but some new exciting news here. So they've had their 40 watt and 70 watt, which replaces 70 up to 175 watt. And now they just introduced 100 watt, and 100 watt replaces a 250. But these are not cobs like anyone else has. They go from 2,000 Kelvin up to 5,000 Kelvin. They have photo safe control, fail safe built into it, and all the Kelvin temperatures you want. Any decorative fixtures that you have outdoor, you can't replace those. You got to retrofit them. And I'm actually doing my first project with Evluma. I'm going to announce that right now on some exterior lighting, taking 250 watt high pressure sodiums out, going to their new 100 watt. So I'll explain more when the job's done. We'll do a nice case study and it'll be fun.
So you got to go to EVLUMA.com. That's right, evluma.com. I call them the magicians because their products are magical. That's right. And of course, presented by the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to NAILD.org. We're announcing the date for our upcoming convention. LS Evolve's been updated, folks, and I know it's been a long time. So welcome to the show, Jay Andrews and Billy Hodges.
Thanks.
Thank you. Takes a little longer to do an intro when we have two people, but you know what? It's fun. Let's make a party out of this.
There you go.
So your guys' background we heard a little bit about, but why start the American Association of Independent Lighting Agents?
I think independently we both recognize that there's really nothing out there to focus on improving the connection between lighting agents and their manufacturers, celebrating the entire lighting sales community, I like to say. So that's really the original genesis of it. And we got put together and we both had, I think, similar ideas about the organization. And, now we're interested in finding value that is unavailable, specifically addressing, the lighting agent and the lighting agent channel.
And there is currently not an association of any lighting agents. What is NEMRA? Let's explain that difference.
Yeah, so they're the National Electrical Manufacturers Representative Association, and they certainly serve over top of everything, but they also have pipe, they've got wire, they've got, all sorts of electrical components that really an everyday lighting agent isn't really involved in the specifics of those things, and the electrical agents there are much less likely to be involved in the subtleties of architectural lighting, specification lighting, and the full breadth of what's out there for lighting.
So you guys are both have your own lighting agent firms, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So our firm is based in Atlanta, and Billy is out of Philadelphia.
You
And
know
how
what's
did you
funny?
guys know each other
Hang on a second. I just got
before
to
this?
say this.
Yeah.
Is it true, like, lighting people are always running away from electrical? Like, true lighting people, they like, you get into these groups and then, like, you're trying to differentiate yourself and you're getting away from electrical. And it's not that, you don't see what NEMRA is, but it's like we want to stay focused on lighting. And I guess that's the purpose of why you formed an organization like this. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, NEMRA does an incredible job, and I was
Of
just down at
course.
the NEMRA conference, and I'm very much in favor of what they've been doing to transform themselves.
Mhm.
But by necessity, because of they have an even bigger tent than we do. We like to talk about our tent as being a big tent and affordable to join, but they have huge entities that are moving different types of materials, and that by necessity then makes lighting a smaller part of their focus. And so
Mhm.
when we get around to thinking about lighting and folks who are on the lighting side, there's a lot of lighting reps who are not NEMRA reps. And so even though a lot of NEMRA reps are carrying some lines of lighting, it's just a different basket of goods, really.
So I'm going to start right into the controversy. Okay.
Sure.
Why do
It's
distributors hate
possible we
agents?
expected it.
Yeah, why do distributors hate agents so much? Like, if you go to a nailed conference, there's
Yeah.
definitely, you're going to find 10 or 15 conversations, negative ones, about lighting agents. Why is that? Like, why is there so much friction between lighting distributors and agents from your perspective?
So, I mean, I think the number one thing is about value, right? Everybody in the chain needs to deliver value and find value from those that serve them. And that's really ultimately what sets apart the great lighting agents from the lighting agents that are there to drop off donuts and collect an order on Tuesday. And I've heard you talk about those agents, stopping by your distributorship. And there's definitely manufacturers out there that do their own sales force,
Mhm.
but not every manufacturer can afford to have a rep in every territory that's a paid employee of their organization. So in order to get out the word, they hire independent lighting agents, whether they're a conglomerate agent or an independent that doesn't have any association with a conglomerate, to educate and to facilitate work with their products.
Jay, you got any thoughts to push it a
Yeah,
little further
I
forward?
think, yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, I think using the term lighting agent is a pretty broad brush. I think everybody has, somewhat of a unique model. There's not a cookie cutter approach. There's not a one size fits all. And so, with the transition to LED 10 years ago, 9 years ago, when it first started coming on, you had lighting agents, basically having their entire product lines that they carried convert almost overnight. And it took a little bit longer for some manufacturers to do that. And what we found starting from scratch in 2013 was the value that we provided was to go out and facilitate orders, work with the distributors to go walk the job sites, because again, they're used to older technology. This LED transformation is something that was complicated, at least at first. And I think there are, to what Billy mentioned, there are the guys that go in, they dust the shelves, they count the fixtures, they write the stock and flow POs kind of thing. And what a lot of agents are doing now, or at least what we're trying to do, to Billy's point, is to bring that value. How can we help you in partnership sell more product? Because ultimately that's what we're all trying to do, is deliver value to a customer. And where we fit in as subject matter experts on particular applications or product types or control systems and that sort of thing, I think that's where the value is created. And that relationship between the agents and the distributors, it, sometimes gets derailed if the
Hmm.
impression is I've had a bad experience with an agent, so therefore all agents must be just like this, and that's not the case.
Well, let me throw this kind of one into the mix here. One of the frustrations that I have with agents comes from the manufacturers changing them so much, right? So, like,
Weird. That's a frustration of ours too.
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I feel like you're just starting to build a relationship with a guy, and then, okay, he's an agent. All right, does he know anything? First of all, or does she know anything about the products? Because a lot of times they don't even know anything. Like, we'll know way more about the products than the agent does. Um, But then, oh, this guy's pretty smart. Oh, he has a car. He can come to a job site with me. Like these kinds of things. And he's got some good ideas, but then he's gone or she's gone next week. And the manufacturer brings in a new agent. That almost destroys the whole reason of having the person in the first place to me. Is that a common thing that you guys are experiencing where manufacturers are kind of cycling through agents and trying to find a good one and maybe that's too fast?
Yes.
You want to take this?
All right, I'll go first. So there are a lot of different reasons that manufacturers make changes, right? I mean, when you have large agents, like the largest agent in the world probably is Sesco out of Florida, and they're covering now, I don't know, a third of the country or something when it goes by population, and so they add on a territory and they change the face of that territory. And now suddenly everybody has to reevaluate where they stand with all of the agents in that territory. And is that their best place to do business? So that's one of the natural things that happens is that, or an agency closes because, they went out of business or because they didn't want to have a succession plan or whatever. A new agency starts up, there's a new opportunity. Would we get more attention there? I mean, the fact of the matter is there's so many lighting manufacturers out there that if all of them are represented in a territory, there's going to be a lot of duplication and that kind of thing. And that's another frustration, I think, with agents and a frustration with manufacturers. But their alternative, right, is to put their own factory sales force in place. And so they choose to have a partnership in a local territory instead of having their own expense of a sales force on staff. I think that then the changing, I think the part that you're referring to happens a lot when maybe a new sales manager comes on, and now that new sales manager has a relationship with the other agent across town because they've worked for 12 manufacturers in the last 10 years. And so they know who they like to work with. And so they'll make a change because that's where they think that they can do the most, sales for themselves. And that's, so that's another situation where things change. I think what that means to Ayla is that we need to work hard at creating a contract situation that is better in terms of establishing and maintaining partnership between the agent and the manufacturer. Sort of the big crime is that lighting agents are on primarily 30-day contracts with their factories.
Wow.
And so that makes it really hard to feel like a good partnership.
Huh. Jay, you got anything to expand on that?
Yeah, it's when lines move around, it's to Billy's point, it's a variety of reasons. Either the old guy wasn't hitting the numbers that they thought they could get in the territory. We had a situation where we were hitting our numbers. A new VP of sales was hired who had a great relationship with another agent in town. Boom, we lost a line, and we were all looking at each other going, "What do we do?" We didn't do anything. We were doing the right thing, and so the 30-day contract is a difficult situation, especially on the architectural side when the sales cycle is extremely long for those products, right? So it's 12 months, 18 months before you even see a PO, and manufacturers get impatient. They feel like they could be doing more. And in a lot of cases, what we found, we've had multiple lines where we may have been hitting our numbers. The relationship change happens. We lose the line. All of a sudden, 6-8 months later, we get a phone call. Hey, this was a mistake. And they think that, and some manufacturers do market analysis based on what agents have specific conglomerate lines. And they say, well, we fit in good with this particular conglomerate line because maybe they don't have as strong an offering as we have. So by default, they go that route without truly investigating, okay, what is their go-to-market strategy? How many competing lines might they have that would compete with us? And so it's a merry-go-round, and Michael, you nailed it. I mean, it's just when you get going with a line, you build a rapport with the regional team that they may have employed their inside sales team. You really get a good cadence with them, and then something happens beyond your control, and all of a sudden the line's gone.
Greg, have you ever had this happen? I'm going to throw one at you. Okay.
Ready.
You're starting a new relationship with a manufacturer. Maybe you've got a couple POs and it's going good, and you get referred to the agent. and then the agent says, "Yeah, I got everything in that. I got those guys, but I also have this very similar manufacturer that's on my line too. Why don't you buy from them?" And I've literally had nailed vendor members on the same agent's line card, and he's trying to switch me from one to the other that are on his same. Have you ever had that, Greg, where an agent tries to whatever switch you from TCP 4-foot tubes to to ICO or Keystone or something like that?
Yeah, I have, and it is frustrating because it's something where you're out there representing, selling, knowing what you're going to do, and then they come back with that. It's like, no, it's not how this is going to work.
And I've had it where the
So yeah, I have had
manufacturers actually referred me to the agent, Jay and Billy, and then the
it.
agent takes me and switches me to a competitor's line. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I don't know if I want to do business with this person. Like, forget about whether they're going to get me a lower price or something like that. Like, that's just not. I don't want to do business with the person that does that to their partners. I've
Takes a
experienced
referral
that.
and
Yeah.
redirects it. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I think, I think to your point, the piece of this that needs to be strengthened is the relationship between the agents and the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
And when we created ALA, we created it with the mindset that manufacturers are going to be equal members in this. There's a lot of organizations where the manufacturers are sort of the bankroll, and they pay a big ticket, and they're not really members per se. They're just a part of supporting the organization. We are absolutely about trying to get all of the manufacturers and all of the agents that want to improve the lighting sales channel under one tent to try and work on the problems that are facing the industry. I mean, you can call them problems, you can call them challenges, because I think that industry's evolving a little bit. LEDs have kind of changed things a little, right?
A little bit.
Online purchasing may have changed a few things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, and how do you execute in that environment has a lot to do with the relationship between your manufacturer and your agent. If they're employing the agent channel as their sales strategy.
I have a relationship with one particular manufacturer, Jay, where all the orders are online. Okay, there's very little interaction with us and the customer. And then the manufacturer drop ships about 75% of the orders. And then I get the invoice every month and it says the agent on it. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? So yeah, the online disruption, how has that affected the agents, and how do you feel about that?
I think it depends on the manufacturer. Some recognize that, when they have an agent in a territory, there's an exclusive partnership within that particular geography, and they understand that if they are fulfilling orders through an online platform that the agent may or may not be involved with, the compensation model is structured such that they honor the partnership. And if it's an exclusive type arrangement, then we would see commissions off that, and that goes to fund all of the other things that we're doing on behalf of that line, where we're in the car with samples, going and show them, creating opportunities, not just collecting a check. That's the worst conversation. And to go back, what the example that you mentioned with the manufacturer bringing an opportunity and then it switched around, that just can't happen. There has to be a reason, whether it's particular product that's needed that manufacturer may not have, or it could be they're out of stock and you need it right away, for that conversation to ever be engaged, especially if they're bringing you an opportunity. I'll give you an example of one that happened just yesterday. I got an email from our regional manager, and he said, "Hey, I've uncovered this opportunity there in Georgia, and the particular customer wants a specific color temperature that we don't offer. But I still want you guys to go in, even if you have a competing product that offers that specific color temperature, because I want you to be successful and build that relationship, because there's going to be opportunities for my line down the road." And again, when we talk about partnership, that was an amazing thing where you've got a manufacturer wanting to enable you to be successful even without using their line, but they understand that there's going to be further opportunities. So again, you've got people that look at the 30-day contract as is what it is, and then you've got other scenarios just like the one I mentioned. But going back, if a manufacturer brings or develops an opportunity and hands it off to you, that's a tough call to take it somewhere else. I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's kind of relationship 101.
Yeah.
Yep, I would say.
So, how do you guys know each other?
through Teams meetings. So to give you like the 30-second, back in October of 2020, we were introduced by a mutual industry friend because I was having the same conversations or thoughts that Billy was having about this type of organization, and it's Al Uzinski, so Al, and he said, you guys need to talk, and so we got on the phone in October, and it led to the launching of the organization in December of last year. But Billy and I have never met in person. We've never been, to an agency council meeting together, or anything like that. So at Leducation, on Monday when we have our event up there, that'll be the first time we see each other in person. So to answer your question, we had know each other before October 2020 led us to, now we're here with you guys.
So you've talked some, but did it basically come down to this contract, this 30-day contract? Is that the ultimate goal of this, or why was it formed exactly?
So we got a number of reasons, and I want to take my hats off to you guys and Nailed, the Innovative Lighting Distributor organization with your LS1, your LS2, and your LSC. I think are excellent sources of training, and I think that our hope is to put forth that same kind of high caliber training that's really focused on lighting sales, but lighting sales in the agent channel with manufacturers and agents in the picture. And so we see that there are ways that our industry is going to change. Online selling is just one of them, where maybe that's not a big part of what the agent of the future does. Maybe it's much more project oriented, and it has to be where you're bringing value into things. So that's a big part of it is education. A big part of it is networking, because NEMRA does a good job of bringing electrical and some lighting lines to their agents to meet new agents and figure out if they should, hire a different agent or hire an agent for the first time. And we'd like to provide that for the lighting folks who probably are not going to be NEMRA agents anytime soon. It's just for the same reasons we talked about. And so being able to provide a network where manufacturers and agents can get together to meet each other and solve the problems of the world is the other piece of it. So advocating for agents, being networking for agents, and then the education of agents, and really regional managers and national sales managers. The sales managers at the manufacturers teams are also ripe for a lot of this, because sometimes they go make those decisions and maybe they don't have the experience in the lighting sales channel that would, help them to see that maybe it's better to stick it out with the agent that you have, for instance.
Sure.
Yeah, the training piece of that, as Billy mentioned, we're really going down two paths. So the first path, which our first set of modules will be launching here in the next literally a few days, are focused around selling to applications. So the first one is opportunities in the nighttime environment, I believe is what it's called. So it focuses around things like dark skies and why that's important. And as an agent,
that's our idea.
isn't that crazy? As an agent, how do you go in and talk to an engineer, specifier, architect, explain to them why they should care? Because they've always, they've got an IES handbook that says this is the minimum, foot candle requirements in a parking lot. But why should they care where all that light is going and what effect it may be having on the surrounding area? And so that's a piece that we see missing. A lot of the manufacturer training is just that. It's here's a product, here's an area light, these are the lumen packages, these are the beam spreads. But being able to train, especially a specification sales team or even our distributor sales team, when they're going in and they're talking to the guys about, why you should pick one wall pack over another. Have you thought about this? You want to deliver a better experience for your customer. So this is the direction you should go. So that'll be the first one that launches. we're also today we have another conference call to sort of map out what sort of the sales channel training is going to be, and this is really focused on how a light fixture really gets sold, and the target there is for new employees to an agency. We all face recruiting challenges, and we can't constantly you work at this agency on Monday, you're at this agency on Friday, kind of thing. We're having to recruit out of colleges. We're having to recruit from people who have taken different career paths. So when you onboard someone, what we found in discussions with a lot of other agents is there's not really a formalized, program to get somebody onboarded, to get them up to speed on, okay, what does a contractor do? What does a general contractor do? Who is an architect? What do they do? And so there's a big deficit for that kind of training that we're going to provide to our members. And again, to Billy's point, you've got regional sales managers who might have been selling concrete 2 months ago, and now they're working for a lighting manufacturer, and the channel to market is completely different. And it helps get those guys up to speed that much faster, provide value not only to their companies, but also to the agents that they're working with day in and day out.
That's wonderful that you're doing the darkness. We're also working on a darkness training program from the distributor perspective, grounded in our perspective and how we go to market. One of the things that, when I'm joking, I call agencies the protection racket. And I think he's laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. So a distributor will get a call from a contractor. Hey, I need to buy these items. And as soon as the call comes in and has some weird long code on it or something like that, I know there's an agency involved here. And it's going to be a pain in the butt to get involved with this and then you look into it. No, they've been working on it for 2 years, for example. It's a hotel that's been being planned for a long time. I want to ask you something that maybe you don't want to answer. How does the agent go about choosing the distributor that they're going to use to sell that package? And why does it seem like in these larger construction jobs, there's multiple agents working on different areas, and they all seem to be favoring certain distributors or something like that? Do you guys know what I'm talking about here? Or
so, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just relationships. So when you talk about a large construction project that has 5 contractors on it, and they're all going to award different pieces of it, maybe they worked on it. Remember, the designer there might be 3 different lighting designers on that job too, right? Someone did the facades, someone did the interiors of the hotel, someone did all the restaurants, someone did, the pool area. I don't know, whatever. But they, for the same, that's where the complication can start on a big project. And then maybe there's multiple architects, and there's, the owner might be one owner, but they've got different division managers that are running the project. I think it can be very mysterious when one is introduced to a project that's been going on for 3 years. Maybe they just broke ground 3 months ago, but that's, there's 3 years worth of people investing their efforts and their time and their life into it, from the design side, from the sales side, from the, engineering side. And then we get to the distributor. And if it's just a bid distributor, and the first time you're looking at it is, okay, well, there's 43 fixture types. Let me go see what I can do, right? Then it seems logical that the people that the salespeople might have been working with would be favored, right? Or that there would be a partnership there because here's somebody who's been involved in the project and I understand it. I'm not saying that there aren't really crooked answers out there, but I think that you'll find in
I don't know if it's
distributorships.
I don't know if crooked is the way to describe. I don't say crooked. I say protection racket, because a lot of times the money for all the work is simply coming from that sale, right? And so they're embedding all the work that they did, specifying change orders, all that sort of stuff, into that contract price. And if it's sold as if I picked up the phone and called the manufacturer and said I need 100 of these, then it's not worth it to be an agent anymore, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works.
Not to provide that level of service.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me ask you guys both a question that maybe nobody has ever asked. And this is going to be interesting, okay? Because, distributors are always saying agents have no value. Agents have no value to the business, right? Well, how can distributors provide value to an agent? Like, let's put it the other way around. Like, what would make an agent really want to work with a certain distributor? Like, what would it be outside like bringing you to leads, outside of like the obvious, I have a project, let's go to it together. What else could a distributor do to really, build a relationship with an agent?
I mean, that's, what you just mentioned is a critical part of sort of how we look at the market. And I go back to 2013 when this LED revolution really began, and the distributors that embraced the value that we could provide, because our agency started. Cree was our only line, and Cree made the LEDs. They made light fixtures. I mean, they were sort of the bellwether at the time for that, and so we were naturally leaned on as the LED experts in town because the other large conglomerates had not started that conversion. And so the relationships that we began there was the distributors actually seeing the value that we provided. We could come out and we could walk a job site and partner with them, and we won and lost the jobs together. And that's lasted over 9 years. We still get calls from people that we worked with in that first year. I think you have situations also where distributors can support you through stock, and working with you on the lines that you represent that have those types of programs, and we take those opportunities to our partners all the time. We're in a unique situation being here in Atlanta. There's some large manufacturers based relatively close to where we're at, and so I think our conversations are, truly figuring out where a distributor is specialized, and if we've got the product mix to support that, whether it's they're chasing healthcare all the time or they're chasing multifamily. How can we work together on those opportunities, to ensure that we both win? I mean, I think a lot of cases that's where our strongest relationships have been created, and it goes back and forth. When we get a phone call from a random end user and they need some whatever the light fixture, we'll pick up the phone and call the guy that we were just working with on the project that we walked the parking lot and figured that out, and we work on that together. So it's a give and take. I mean, it's certainly not a one way type of relationship by any stretch. I don't know if Billy, you got any other insight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about integrity and trust and trial and error and making sure that you're working together in lockstep. I mean, that's the best thing that someone can bring you. And when everybody knows that you're not going to turn around and ask for a quote for the lowest dollar, or can you substitute this? That provides a level of trust and energy to the relationship, between the agent and the distributor customer, for sure. And that's, I don't think that's any different from the manufacturer agent relationship. And, relationships 101 really is about, can I trust you to do what you're going to do and say what you're going to do and then do it?
So I think one thing I want clarity on, I've been doing it 16 years, and our little LS program has a slide that kind of breaks it all down, like you were talking about architects and all that. So there's lighting agents and there's electrical agents. Is that the right term? The two
So I
options for
think
reps.
that we're making a distinction, and I think there's a distinction out there that there are lighting only reps, and then there are electrical reps that have some lighting lines or a lot of lighting lines. Sometimes they start a lighting division, in which case we've got some big NEMRA agents who have lighting divisions who are interested in being members with
Sure. Yeah, totally.
ALA. So it's just about how much focus you have on lighting within your agency.
Yeah, there's a lot of electrical distributors in nailed.
Everyone.
There's a lot of electrical distributors in nailed. Yeah.
That's kind of the point I'm looking at too. Is you have the word independent in ALA. Nailed used to be independent. We changed it to innovative, to kind of get more involved, and it has to just be a lighting only place. Are you guys? Where did the term independent come from, or what does that mean to be a member of the independent part of it?
So it's interesting because that is, I think it's a question mark for some agents out there. Some of the small, really lighting only agents that are non-conglomerate. I mean, we're both a little bit hybrid because we have, sort of, I mean, I don't know if GE Current is a tier 2 anymore now that they own Hubble, but that's, they were up and coming in terms of the LED volume and everything. But the smallest agents, the smallest spec reps are wondering if it's independent enough, I think. And that's something that I hope that everybody will understand, that independent lighting agent means you're not factory owned. At that point, you'd be a manufacturer member, right? When you're an agency in a town that's owned by a factory, you're a manufacturer member of the organization at that point.
There are agencies owned by manufacturers?
I don't know how many of them are left. When Illuminations moved into New York, they bought out the New York Acuity agent, which was a factory-owned agent. Back in the day, Light Allure agents were factory-owned agents. So if you represented other lines, your commission checks went to Light Allure, and then you got paid out of that. Right. So then you're not really.
Came up with that model. Seems like an odd
might
one.
have been the Light Allure people.
Okay.
So
that's unique. So with Ayla, what is you two started it? Are you guys the management company? What's your role exactly there?
Yeah, so we founded it. It's a nonprofit organization. We have a support company that helped this. I mean, I've never done anything like this. I mean, we started an agency, but nothing in the nonprofit arena. So we had support and help through this whole design process of the organization, building the website, the whole thing, all the legal stuff behind the scenes. So Billy and I, we're co-founders. There will be a board of directors that will be seated in the coming months. There will be committees that are started, education committee, membership committee, things that you would expect. And Billy and I will play some, advisory role perhaps, but in terms of this being our organization, it's Ayla. So it's, as Billy said, the membership is comprised of agencies and manufacturers. And so we're going to pull, from that, the group of experts that we have, now as members to, again, drive some of these initiatives and guide the organization so that, the issues that are facing all of us can be, addressed very thoughtfully, where best practices can be developed. But in terms of, ownership of the organization or whatever you want to call it, it's a member led. There'll be a board of directors. Eventually there'll probably be an executive director or something like that once it gets of a large enough size that needs that.
Well, okay. So as you know, coming up on we're over half an hour here, so we'll probably kind of try to wrap it up. But I wanted to ask,
Sure.
There's a lot of, the last 12 years has, from everything, society level, nation level, in lighting industry level, has been extremely ruckus. I mean, look what's going on in Canada right now. It's just crazy right now. The world seems to be nuts.
Right.
And everybody's kind of trying to carve out a new model for old terms, and whether that's political parties or lighting distribution companies or agents, are we as an industry, do we need to describe different activities? Because I feel like there's a lot of lighting distributors that are kind of like agents, and then one of the agents in my town has a warehouse with products in it, and it's like, you're a lighting distributor, you're not an agent. You just, you're doing the same thing I'm doing, except you're calling yourself an agency. Do we need new terms to to really define what a lighting agent is? Like, this agency has a big warehouse full of product. They have an order desk, counter, but they're calling themselves an agency. To me, that's a distribution a distribution company. So are we trying to use old terms or old models in a world that doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah. Do you feel like everything's sort of becoming a different hybrid depending on where you are and where your interests lie? I mean, I don't think that that's new. I think, I can think back 20 years to Los Angeles, where agents had, companies that were warehouses as well. And that's not, whether it's a separate company just run out of the back of the building or it's its own, the same company, it varies. But everybody's in for a good transaction, and where we provide value to one another, then we work together on a transaction. And where we don't provide value to one another, I've heard endless nailed podcasts where, man, I just call the manufacturer because the rep is useless, right? Like those words have been said. And so it's about trying to find partnerships where we do actually, one and one make more than two. That's really what these situations are. And sometimes that looks like an agent who has a counter that, is accepting POs, and sometimes who is experts in the 6 lines that they carry. And that starts to look a lot like an electrical rep with a few lighting lines, right? Like, and so I think there's a lot of different hybrid models out there, and certainly people are trying to figure that out. I did want to turn the conversation around a little bit, though. Nailed was a fair amount of inspiration in terms of how we thought about the AILA, the forming of AILA early on, in terms of what, I think actually independent came from looking at your old website, which had independent on it originally, and then, the line through it, and innovative and the whole thing. So
where lighting means business. I love that tagline. That was the best tagline. Good. Yeah.
So, this, we're developing something here, and we want to develop it in parallel. We want it to be of value. We want it to be something that is not yet represented in the market. But when there's a push for dark skies, we want to produce content that pushes towards that in the space that. Sorry, my alarm went off. It's amateur hour. I've heard that somewhere. All right, so we want to push towards dark skies for the right reasons as well. And how do you emphasize that in the lighting sales community between the agent and the manufacturer? What can we all be talking about to enable the distributor? What can we be doing? So that's one kind of question. How do we partner together going forward to bring more value to the community as two organizations, running in parallel?
Greg, you want to field that one? You want me to take it?
Why don't you go? Yeah, I can tell you personally from Premier, but I want to hear Nailed side. Let's go.
So yeah, well, I mean, so then the Nailed perspective, it's interesting. I think that we should definitely trade memberships in each other's associations. Like, I often, sometimes, felt like in 2015 that Nalmco and Nailed were competitors or something, right? And like I remember coming back and getting involved in Nailed again with the podcast and listening to the talk about Nalmco as a kind of a competitor to Nailed, and I thought that's silly. Nailed should be a vendor member of Nalmco. That's our customers. Right? And if some of those people are buying direct from manufacturers, that's none of your business. You have an obligation to create your own value as a company. But when it comes to Nailed, like if, and manufacturers are allowed to create the kinds of relationships they want to create. There's no rules in the game. Nobody's making up. The lighting industry works like this. People are trying to, like you said, cut a deal, make some money. So my thing would be like Nailed belongs in that association as a vendor partner. You guys belong in Nailed. And whether or not you're actually a vendor member or an associate member, all these different titles and terms or whatever, we should at least have ambassadorships to one another where we're discussing things like dark skies, where we're discussing things like health effects. We're discussing sustainable light fixtures. Like, you can't change a light bulb anymore. And every time time a light fixture burns out, you got to take the whole fixture. This is not environmentally responsible. I don't care how much energy you save. If you have to throw out a light fixture every 3 to 7 years, it's not responsible. And so these kinds of issues, and we should be saying, Nailed is working on the dark sky issues. How can you guys help us? And that's what a lot of our open letters were about to the industry. We're about saying, hey, we're just distributors here trying to solve this problem. Can anyone else help us? And does anyone else have any thoughts? And so we struck a partnership with the IDA, and that's been great for us. But really, if we want to solve the dark sky issue, it's an industry problem. The lighting industry has to become the lighting and darkness industry. Like, people in the lighting industry have to be think of themselves as providing darkness or preserving darkness or restoring darkness, as well as providing illumination. And those two things go together in the thought process. We have to change that paradigm. The only way we can change the paradigm is if the NALMCO guys, the NAILED guys, the ALA guys, the IES, and we have this industry alignment where everybody's working on their little niche of it, and that starts to flow and trickle down into the projects. You guys are talking to the architects and the designers, and the designers are also being made aware of these issues from their associations, the International Association of Lighting, IALD or whatever it is, and all these associations. They should have ambassadorships to one another, taking pertinent information, joining each other's associations, right? So that NALMCO knows what NAILED is up to, and NAILED knows what NALMCO is up to, and we're sharing information and educational resources and these kinds of things. It's not a competition. You guys are doing this to serve the industry. I'm sure you're not getting rich off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're managing NAILED. We don't make any money managing NAILED. It's it's a service to the industry, and so we have to get back to that. These associations they're not for profits, Jay, just like you said. It's a not for profit. And yeah, we want our revenues to exceed our expenses so we can invest in educational programs. But at the end of the day, its purpose is to serve the industry, to serve the distributors into the industry, and to serve the distributors' customers. That's why these things exist. And they're meant to be voices. And so I'm so glad you guys have joined the party.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
at the party.
Yeah, and I think just as the bigger part too is the actual people using the light, the end user, and that's what often is like overlooked. And they're the people that struggle with the issues that come down the line. So if we can all align and get together and do it right, then the end user is happy, and that's what it's all about, right? They're the ones using the light; they need to be happy with it. We need to make the choice right for them, get them the right light.
Greg, you hit the nail on the head.
I think too that they're either coming to us or coming to you guys for recommendations.
Yeah.
And if we're recommending the same thing and we're going down that same path, we're going to have a positive result, because the end user, they may not have any idea what they're asking for other than my parking lot's dark, and they just need somebody to help. And if we're all pointing in that same direction, everybody's going to benefit. And
if the message is the same, right?
Yep.
It's like, I call the top agent around, and what people don't want to get, like, the lighting industry is obsessed with educating the customer. No, educate the damn industry. Forget like the industry's not educated. So what are you talking about educating the customer? Who's going to do that? And it's very frustrating. The other thing too is, like, we have to get rid of the mindset. The IES is the overarching association of lightings, right? Everybody looks to the IES for leadership in the lighting world. They're the overarching guys. Below that, you got the contractors, the distributors, the ALA, all these different groups, right? That are kind of below and involved with the IES. We have to get on the same page. If NAILED puts out a letter, it's not to steal anyone else's thunder. It's just to start the conversation as an industry. Here's what the lighting distributors think. What the hell do we know? We sling light bulbs all day, bud. But here's what we're thinking about these sustainable light fixtures. We can't change light bulbs anymore. This is a problem. We're on the front lines. We're the sergeants in the trenches. Guys, hey, we got a problem here, industry. Like, there's going to be people that are going to be really pissed off when they find out that, they just did their lights 5 years ago and their accountant amortized them for 40 years and now they got to change them again. Or whatever it is, people, and these are the signals we're trying to send back up the chain. You guys are in the same position talking to the end user customers. You don't want that customer calling a distributor in 3 years saying, hey, the light fixture's out in the hallway. What do I do? Oh, change all the light fixtures in the building again now, because the new one does not made anymore. Like, these are serious issues. We got to take ourselves way more seriously as an industry. And I'm so happy you guys started this, because now the agents can have a place where they can discuss things and come up with policy ideas and have a united voice of the agents. It's beautiful, man.
Well, and we've also found that, again, we launched mid-December, and if you look at our member list, we're approaching 50, members, and a combination of manufacturers and agents. And on the agent side, it's a mix. I mean, it's small agents, it's large agents, it's big markets, small markets. So the message is getting out. It's people are hearing about us, and again, it's just like we create value to our channel partners in this whole thing. Just like you guys, we have to create value for our membership, and what Billy and I think is critical is the education piece and guiding those principles, just like what you're talking about. And on the manufacturing side, again, if you look at the members who've signed up, it's architectural lines, it's more commodity lines. I think you may have mentioned one in your intro that may be a supporter of our organization now. And so it's just been really good because, at the beginning, it was just me and Billy in an echo chamber wondering if this thing, is needed. And we're seeing that growth, and we expect a really good turnout, in March at our first real social event at Leducation. So, we feel it's needed. We're seeing the growth, and we fully expect that, the more that we're able to produce and the value we're able to deliver, our membership's only going to grow. But I mean, I think that's a great point you made in terms of the ambassadors, cross-pollinating each organization, so we're all on the same page. That's a perfect idea.
And Billy, I'll let you have the final word here before we call it. But I'm gonna warn you about. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a warning on that. You don't join ALA or Nailed or Nalmco or whoever because you're looking for an ROI. Okay?
Right.
Like, I don't know how much it costs to be a member of, I'm certain it's not 10 grand, right? Like, what is it? How much does it cost to be a member?
Right. So manufacturers are 1,500, large agents are under 2,000, small agents are under 1,000.
Right. So, if that's hurting you, maybe you need to go sell some more stuff before you worry about, joining Nailed or anything like that. These
Hey, would you say that later? Louder.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, if you're hurt, what is it? It's $600 to be a distributor member of Nailed or something like that, Greg?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
$750. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you're looking for an ROI, a return, what's my return on investment, or what's the value? No, dude, this is a place where you can serve the industry. Actually, this is a place where the agents come together and work together as a voice to make being a lighting agent better for everybody. This is where we come and we make being a distributor better for everyone. And that's the message we're trying to get across. I'm, having a conversation. What's my ROI on my $600? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, seriously.
Yep.
Okay, I'll pay your membership. Okay, buddy. Like, just join a couple committees here. Yeah. Like, either you're paying or I'm paying. Like, stop being so cheap. It's ridiculous. Serve the industry. And I'll tell you this: the baby boomers knew how to do this. The baby boomers knew that they had a responsibility to stabilize their aspect of the industry, and they created all these associations that are so wonderful. Us Gen Xers, man, we got to get our heads screwed on straight, because we're going to lose these associations because people are trying. What value can Nailed bring your business? What are you talking about? This is where you give back to the industry. 1% of your time. Go to an event. Speak on a roundtable discussion. Join a committee. Put your people through the education so we can all be better as an industry, as distributors, as agents, as contractors. That's what NALMCO is about. It's exactly the same thing.
Yep, I agree 100%. I was really, really pleased to see the direction that NEMRA's taking their content and their things. So I think there's kind of a revolution happening in industry associations in general. I do point out to all those folks that are sitting on the fence about ALA, there's only one chance to be a founding member, and that's before Leducation. So get on board. All right? See you soon.
Hey,
there you go.
That's awesome. Greg, I think we made it to the end of this one. So, folks, we've got to keep it magical, man. Keep it magical, Greg Eric, with Evluma. Go to evluma.com, baby. That's evluma.com.
That's right. I'm about to use some of that magic. As I mentioned, I had a job coming up with their OmniMax, 2,000 Kelvin up to 5,000 Kelvin. We talked a little bit about dark sky. They're big into that. They have the right fixture and retrofit for it. So check out their product.
They're also the sponsor of the Restoring Darkness podcast. That's right. Name change, host change. We're looking for a new host. So look, man, I don't know enough about dark skies to host. I can ask some good questions, but I'm a light bulb dork. So if you are a specialist on darkness preservation, dark skies, restoration, all that kind of stuff, and you want to be the host of a podcast once a month, info@nailed.org is where you email. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors welcomes the American Association of Independent Lighting Agents. Welcome to the game, guys. And all you guys here out there that are listening at the end, and gals, we thank you for listening, of course. See you next time.